Welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. I'm Nile Henry.
And I'm Blair Henry.
And we're two brothers who set out on a mission to make motorsport and STEM careers more diverse, affordable, and inclusive. We are the founders of the Blair Project.
This podcast series delves into the minds of inspirational individuals who come from ordinary and often humble backgrounds, but through their belief, dogged determination, and never give up attitude, have managed to overcome academic, social, or mental challenges to achieve their dream careers.
Our guests will share their life lessons that you too can apply to your own. We hope their stories will inspire you to go further, aim higher, and accept nothing less than you deserve. Your ambition, your purpose is all within, and we're here to help you unlock it. The planet of possibilities are endless.
You know who made it.
Hello and welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Akua Opong, who is a senior associate at the London Stock Exchange Group. Welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast, Akua.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here today and get into a great conversation with you. I was really looking forward to this all this week. And sorry, excuse my voice today, bad cold because of the change in weather. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my story. And it's a great platform as well. I remember seeing some of your previous interviews and I'm in awe of so many of the guests you've had on. So it's such an honor to be on here today. So thank you both.
Oh no, thank you for agreeing to be a guest. And obviously, it's a shame that you got a cold and it wasn't the Manchester United result last night that gave you that. But could you tell our audience, Akua, a little bit about yourself and your journey to being a senior associate at the London Stock Exchange Group?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know why I wore the Man United colours today. Very bad omen, I think. But yeah, we'll glance over that, right? In terms of my career journey and how I got to the role I'm in today, so I've gone through different kind of career paths of what I wanted to do when I was growing up. At one stage, it was paediatrician. One stage, it was joining the army, and then I moved into tech and then tech within financial services. I've worked in financial services, I would say now for about over 8 years, but I took different kind of a career path from at one stage working with the Dubai Royal family, then working Carphone Warehouse, another kind of financial firm, then into consulting now at London Stock Exchange. So I've worked here for just over 4 years. And why my career has gone through different routes, it was based on kind of personal interest and choice. And I'd say when you work in the financial industry, it's so fast paced, things change all the time, and especially working in the London Stock Exchange, as we briefly talked offline before about share prices, things like that. Yeah. It's so crazy because there's always some company being listed on here, or we're doing IPOs, we're doing elements which is linked to like sustainability. So it's always changing every single day. And even the events we host, every single month there's a hero campaign. So for instance, this month we've got Black History Month overlapping with Hispanic Heritage Month as well. So we've got a lot going on in that space as well. So it's been brilliant. But in terms of my role here at the London Stock Exchange Group, I work within the infrastructure and cloud teams in the support side of things. And it's quite a varied day again because of what goes on in the stock exchange. But outside my day-to-day role, I'm also a mental health champion, part of the Women's Network, accessibility lead, and also work as well with our Black Empowered Network. So no day's ever dull for me. It's always kind of what is going on with what network, what am I doing in my day job? And also I'm part of a team that is currently doing a migration project for about 1,200 users to add it in. So my October is so much fun right now. This month is, I think, one of the busiest for my last 5 years of my careers, to be fair. But yeah, you move on. It's been great fun doing it so far this month.
And Akua, when you're setting out on your journey, who were some of your key role models growing up?
Yeah, I would say it varied. I would say because it was like in the moment, and one was definitely Michelle Obama. And I know some people go, it's a cliche, everyone says Michelle Obama, but it's the truth. I love the way she talked about how it's so important for young girls to have an education. And she always really drilled that home. And even I've got her book Becoming, and I actually went to her book tour when she did it in London. And the atmosphere in the room, there was so much energy and such a great vibe because everyone knew that who they was coming to listen to. And for me, it was such a special moment because I was sitting there with one of my college friends that I've known for years. And it was just so special because I was just in awe, and just like every response she gave and things like that, it was just, it was special because you can you can never say in your lifetime that you've gone to like a book tour of that magnitude, I think, and it meant a lot to me. And there's others throughout my career, such as there's a few that I've met through work that have been definitely supporters of what I do, and I value that because for me, when I was growing up, I was such a timid child and I was quite shy. I didn't have as much confidence. Like I'd get involved in things, but at times I just didn't feel overly confident. So it took a lot, and sometimes I've had to dig deep. Like even if someone says to me, "You're doing a great job," etc., I'm always like, I could do better, I could do more. And that's my driver, to always do better, do more.
So, Akua, I was also reading up a little bit about you as well, because you mentioned earlier that your interests have changed over the years. And one area that I saw is that you used to work within the automotive sector.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Which company did you work for?
So it was actually my placement year as part of my 4-year degree. So it was with Rolls-Royce Motor Cars and BMW. And I would say that if anyone likes cars, definitely work in an automotive kind of company, because it was amazing. I actually worked there when Lewis Hamilton was starting out. So he was with Honda at the time. So I actually saw him, like he was racing at Festival Speed. And that was like one of his kind of debut, kind of like getting into it and everything. And that was kind of when people first got to know about him. So yeah, it was brilliant.
And so from going from automotive to then financial services, what's the major differences? Obviously the industry is very much different, but has there been a lot of the same practices that you learned on that job automotive that have been able to transfer into the financial world?
I would say there's some elements, but it's so different because where I was based, so it was in Chichester, so that's kind of West Sussex area, and it was so different because how their office was based. So the bottom area was all the production line, so you actually get to see the cars getting created, and then there was a whole kind of mezzanine level, and then all the corporate operations team and other teams were above that. So as you walked into the office, you come through the main door, you go up the stairs, and then you see like cars in different transition phases. And it was amazing because, for instance, they got in the main body of the cars from Dusseldorf in Germany, and then sometimes they had special requests. Like when I was there, we had like the Prime Minister, I think it was from China or somewhere in the APAC region, that wanted kind of bespoke cars. So they had to be all jade green colour, and even the interior level was a set kind of, I think it was beige or cream kind of colour, and it was amazing. Saw how each of them was created, and they had their own little mark on them, and then the interior in terms of the wood as well and the finish, it was amazing.
Wow. I wanted to touch on Akua. Like part of your role, you mentioned that you're mentoring like new starters to the teams, so partly like interns and like graduates, and providing like technical guidance. Could you talk to us more about that role as well?
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot in terms of the joiners, movers, leavers in our company. So it's something that I started doing, I would say, mainly in the pandemic, because in the pandemic, it's kind of like someone's been asked to join a new company. You're not going to see your team for, we don't even know how long at the time. So it was quite nice to like get to know them. So sometimes I would liaise with like HR, the managers, and be like, okay, I'll set up a time to speak to them, kind of get them started, get equipment to them, and then just talk to them over the phone, like, and set them up ready for like first day, because I think that is so important to give that kind of impression of like, this is the kind of company you're working for. it sets that kind of benchmark. And I think it's really it works really well for especially the new starters, and I would say during the time the 2 cohorts of graduates we had, because let's say they're going from a minefield of studying to a workplace, and some of them, let's say they might have not worked before, etc. So it's trying to give them that kind of confidence, and also like not making them feel like the fear of unknown for them. And I feel like that's quite important. So when you set the tone for day one from someone, it carries on and they feel like they kind of belong and the culture's right for them in a company.
Wow. And touching, just expanding on what we just talked about. I mean, I was reading that as well. You do, as well, outside of your main role, you're also doing quite a lot of extracurricular activities. So I see you're really like passionate on like the mental health side of things. In fact, you've been the title like a mental health champion, and also like UK community action lead for like outreach programs for LSEG. So what I wanted to touch upon is what makes you passionate about these sorts of projects?
Yeah, I would say in terms of the mental health aspects, that was because I've read a lot about people going through struggles and things like that, and I've actually seen it. And so it's kind of each one reach one. And just because of myself, I went through a bit of a mental health struggle. And it's not something that I overly talk about because it was a really tough time. I went from struggling to get out of bed, and then to I had to take a bit of a break, go on holiday, and then come back, and then I felt myself again. But I just think that sometimes it's just really good to talk. And in some communities as well, we just don't talk about it, and it can get to people quite a lot. And I went through a bit of like mental health struggles, and it was a number of things at the time. I just felt like so burnt out, and just so much was going on. It was a bit post-pandemic, lost people in my family, and so it was tough. And then also I found out a year before that I was diagnosed with having dyslexia and ADHD. So I had to change a lot of like how I would approach things, how I do things. So I felt like I had to rediscover myself, and it was kind of like a whole do-over. And so it kind of made me feel like, well, if I feel like this, there's many other people that might be feeling like this as well. How can I help them? And then in terms of the outreach programs with the kids, kids are our future kind of thing. And it's kind of like with them, and because I've got a nephew, I've got a goddaughter as well, I just feel like it's so important for them to be given a chance and an opportunity to thrive. People sometimes say that, oh, but nowadays children get things handed to them. No, they don't. And it depends on what environment they're in. You look all over the world, there's some countries where kids can't even get to school, or they're having to do other chores and stuff like that before they even go to school. It's tough for them. And until you're in that environment where you're going through that yourself, you'll never understand. And the thing is, sometimes people make assumptions that, oh, just because they see a kid, he looks healthy, happy, the kid's okay, she looks healthy, happy, she's okay, etc. And I think that it's not so clear cut and easy. We don't know, and that's why it's always key for people to remember, never make assumptions. Just because you see someone on face value, you think they're okay, they're not going through stuff. They are, but a lot of people hide it, a lot of people conceal it. And so they're doing that for self-preservation. And not be deemed, because sometimes you can talk to people and say like, oh, I'm going through this. You show that level of vulnerability, and there's two sides of the coin, where some people, they'll use it to their advantage, or other people, they'll generally be like, what can I do to help you? And so it's so important to kind of give back to the children of today, and also students, and make them feel like, you know what, like you can achieve anything you want to, because it's so hard and so difficult. And you see how stuff that's happened to a lot of kids in the press and stuff like that. Like there was the story about the young girl from gymnastics not being given a medal, and you just think like, how does this happen, and other things like that. And so it's kind of like, you want to be, I would say, like, I wouldn't say hero, because it's not about saving everyone, saving the world. It's more kind of being that champion and that advocate, and someone who's a change maker, someone that makes them believe that whatever they put their mind to, they can achieve it.
Absolutely.
Akua, there was a lot of nuggets in there. While you were listening, like I had so many questions like popping up in my head. The first one I'd like to ask, and it might be the audience would probably be generally curious. So, what in terms of, you know, you went to go and get an exam to obviously get that result to see if you were on the spectrum of being neurodiverse.
Yeah.
What was that point for you that you were like, right, I need to go and get tested and just see, like, because obviously you've gone through, you know, the years of your life up until last year, like it never occurred to you or anything. So what was that point where you decided, well, let me just go and get an exam done? And, you know, in terms of being obviously a neurodiverse individual and you're a champion, how important is it in terms of, because not only that, you're a diversity, equity and inclusion advocate, how important is representation?
Yeah, I would say, like, even why it was interesting, because why I got it done initially, I think I was actually trying to test how the assessment process works for a couple of other people that I knew, because I had and read so much about there was some individuals that they can't get assessments, stuff like that. So I tried it for access to work and other areas, and I've got to say the process is shocking. It's so tough. You'd think, like, in this day and age with medical advancements, technology, a lot of that stuff would be so easy, but it's so tough. Like, access to work takes, I think, like 6 to 9 months if you're in work. And then if you do privately through work, it's quicker, but it depends on who your provider is and what it covers. Some providers I found in the UK don't even cover you if you've got an existing health condition. So there's so many different variables. And I think that it helped me understand people's frustrations, because I was seeing it, but I didn't understand it until I went through it myself. And then, like, once I got my diagnosis, I was like, okay, there's some things about my background history and stuff in my life why now this makes sense. But I kind of think that like, I definitely, a lot needs to be done more to kind of get a lot more people assessed quicker, because then there's so many people that go through life not getting certainly the right support, and you see it affects them later on. And that's why sometimes you do get actually the kind of mental health issues, because people get frustrated with themselves, and also in their jobs and day-to-day lives. And people don't see this just because they're not in that person's shoes.
That's very interesting. And in terms of that representation, you know, why is representation important? Why is it important to have people from, you know, whether it's different ethnic backgrounds or whether they're on neurodiverse? Can you tell us why representation is important and what it means to you?
Yeah, representation is so important, and it's just because there's communities, and from especially the Black communities, where let's say, for instance, sometimes we don't talk about, like, what is dyslexia to kids. We don't talk about, like, sometimes mental health conditions. And even reading recently, like, even as a Black woman in tech and a neurodivergent Black woman, let's say, I would, like, let's say there's certain health conditions where it affects Black women 4 times more than someone that's from not from an ethnic group. And so basically that's why we need to have these discussions, because until you do, it's kind of like you're I'm not saying it's avoidance or anything like that, but you're making it tougher for the next generation. And that's why we've got to pave the way for, like, that's why we always say the terms like pave the way forward, pass the baton, things like this, because it's kind of like you've got to keep sharing this so that it helps other people. And I could say this in terms of women's health, whether it's things like endometriosis, even maternal like birth rates and things like that. It affects a lot of people. Like there was a recent athlete, Tori Bowie, that was from America, and she passed away a couple of months ago. And even I was shocked when I read about it, because I thought, she might have had a health condition that was linked to athleticism. And when I found out what it was for, I was just kind of like, I can't believe people kind of just swept this under the rug. It's so important to discuss it. And even one of her former colleagues had actually said that in their team of like 4 or 5 in their relay team, I think 3 to 4 even have had like some kind of issue with pregnancy that has been overlooked, and one has actually passed away from it. And so you got to say that this is something that you can't just be like, we're not going to talk about or bring it to the forefront. You have to, because it can help like the next person. They can look at what signs and symptoms to look out for. And it's so important. Even I can say this in terms of men as well, like for men in the Black communities, sometimes things like prostate cancer, for instance, mental health, suicide prevention, there is a lot of that in the community. And again, it's not spoken about. And you just sometimes think, why? Because it can help someone else.
Yeah.
And so important, especially in young males as well. They have to know this, because especially things like prostate cancer, things like that. Cancer, there's so many different types of it. It can be hereditary. It could be caused by your environment. It could be caused by so many other things that people don't know about, because again, we don't have these conversations. And it's not just having the conversations, it has to be honest and make it transparent. And you don't want to kind of throw things down people's throats. We're not doing that. It's just the awareness is so important.
Yeah. Akua, what I wanted to ask, it goes on similar experiences like me and Nile have faced, being that we're like a Black organisation based in STEM. We find that when we're going to events or whatnot, we're usually the only people of colour at these events. So I just wanted to ask a question based on your experiences as a Black woman working in STEM and being a STEM ambassador and a trailblazer. Do you feel that you've had to go through several barriers to get to where you are now in terms of your career?
And especially in the financial services sector as well.
Yeah, I would say definitely, because and it's not just even by looking at the rates. Even there was the recent report, like the ethnicity pay gap report, and that was interesting, because even I remember looking at it and saying to my friend, why did they bother producing another report? They could have just added on a percentage and then just republish it, because there's no kind of, the margins haven't increased. They're just a few fine lines here and there. And even myself, when I first started getting into tech, it was so difficult, because even on the way my name's pronounced, spelled, etc., like when my CV would come through to anyone, there's times where they'll think I was a male person rather than female. And then there's other elements of it, like even when I turned up to interviews, sometimes the interview would get shocked. And it's like, well, if you do your due diligence and actually did some checks on me, you would know that I'm a woman and not a male, and things like that. And it's just kind of like, it was interesting. And I think sometimes, like where we talk about nowadays artificial intelligence and like chat GPT and things like that, like with AI, it is important, because it's kind of like, who's the programmer behind it, who does the thing in the back end. It's mainly a male person over a woman, I would say. So it's kind of, it changed. And it's kind of like, I also watched this documentary, which I highly recommend. It's called Coded Bias. So it's on Netflix. It's a really short, I think it's about under an hour or so, but it's definitely worth a watch, because it talks about how even AI, like even on your phone, sometimes I'm on my phone and I'm literally like taking a bus journey or something like that, and my phone's not picking up my face, and it's like, I've had this phone for about like 6 months or so. How can it not pick up my face, the coordinates, things like that? And again, it's like how these devices are programmed and what's in the background training it. And even in Coded Bias, it shows this. So like when you're going through like passport control at the airport, stuff like that, even that, because it's trying to pick up your coordinates. And it even shows in that documentary that when I think there was a white female looking into like a camera and a lens, and then a black male, and they kept switching. When the white female approaches it, it picks up relatively quickly. When the black male steps in front, he has to kind of go closer and keep moving to kind of get the coordinates right for it to pick him up. And it's startling that, again, in this day and age, that happens. Wow. So it's kind of crazy. Like, all this stuff comes into it, and it's just basically on how things are programmed. And that's why it's like how representation matters. We've got to really, and that I know sometimes some people go, oh, there's so many awards for women, etc. Why we always got so many awards? It's just because some of these women are hidden figures.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that film, Hidden Figures, because it preaches to the converted, I think, how some women went through history that they did amazing things and you didn't even know that it was from a woman, because no one kind of like put it out there that or gave them credit for the work they've done. And that's a lot of things that we've now got to do to change it so it makes it better for other women.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I remember seeing something on, I think it was a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, but
Yes,
they talked a little bit about that, how the algorithms and certain pieces of software discriminate against people from ethnic backgrounds, because I think they're talking about an experiment with like hand dryers as well and stuff like that, where, you know, the hand dryers that have been tested with lighter skin tones, but if it's a darker skin tone, because they've not included people with darker skin, that the hand dryer wouldn't pick up the skin color of their hands, so it wouldn't work, it wouldn't activate. And, you know, there are other things as well, and it's important that, you know, everybody has a chance to, you know, be involved in different things. So there's not one race or one gender or, you know, that gets excluded. And so, you know, how important do you believe, I know speaking to corporates about allyship, you know, how important is allyship in getting companies to work with people from different backgrounds?
Yeah, no, it's so important. And why I say that is just because, like, in terms of an ally, you're the one that can really advocate and sponsor someone. So you've got in a way the power to be a bit of a change maker. And the fact is, like, when you talk about allyship, things like this, some people are in positions of power, and it's kind of like, what do they do with that power? Do they use it to help people, or do they use it to hinder people? And for me, that's so important. And it makes me think about an event we had on Monday here, where we had different women in senior leadership positions. And like, one was a group council, one was a non-executive director, one was a head of department, etc. And they all talked about things like authenticity, network visibility, sponsors and advocates. And it's interesting because when I think back to when I was starting out, some of my biggest sponsors or allies, advocates were actually males over women, just because that was just that we didn't have a massive amount of women that was in the technology industry within certain areas where I worked. So that's where I get my mentorship, my allyship from. But in terms of allyship can be across different areas, like even in terms of religion. When you see like a country going through stuff where it's homicide, this and that, other people from other countries of privilege, you should be actually kind of supporting that country. Yeah. And that's where allyship is so important, because allyship can be, allyship can apply to different kind of scenarios, different kind of environments. But it's, how you choose to use your power, I think, is so important, because you can be the actual agent of change. And by say that, I've got like a really great friend, his name's Lee Chambers, and he does a lot of work around like male allies in the UK, and he talks a lot about allyship. But it's so important, because to hear from a male friend, that's someone that talks about things like gender equality, talks about menopause, you would never have heard about that, like I would say 10, 20 years ago. Guys would be like, why is he talking about that? But he's trying to help, because he's using kind of like his support network, etc., to help kind of shape things and be a change maker. And that's what epitomizes being a really great ally, someone like Lee. And even there's other people that I know in industry as well. Like, some could, like, in public be like clapping, going, oh, you're doing amazing, you're doing great. But behind closed doors, they're not actually showing that level of allyship. So that's another side of the coin, where what extent can you actually, or are you actually using your allyship as well to promote change?
Well, it's about, obviously, you know, it's good talking about it, but if you could take action and actually do some, create some considerable change, or then it's even more pivotal, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%.
I was going to ask you, Akua, in terms of, because you're doing so many different projects at once, but I guess in terms of all those projects combined, what are What is the most innovative, or should I say the most exciting project, would you say, that you've worked on over the last year?
Oh God, that's quite hard because there's been various different ones. Because I'm currently working on an initiative around women's safety, but I would probably say definitely the IT kind of sustainability one. So, what it is during the pandemic, we had like a warehouse of a lot of equipment, and I just made a couple of calls because I was just thinking like we've got all this equipment. There's so many schools and places that need equipment, and then after like the pandemic, I can't remember how many we had, to be fair, but yeah, after a certain time when we did the whole refit return to office kind of end of 2021, we had like monitors, Chromebooks, various things, and like even property team gave us stuff like antibacterial gel and various stuff like that. And I was just reaching out to schools, some of our charity partners, because we have a foundation, and I was like, do you any of you need this stuff? Even one of our entities of a company, they moved away from LSEG because of changing partnerships, things like that. And they gave me stuff like towels, glasses, things like that. So even some things we gave it to schools to use at careers fairs. Some things we used like even to give away to when we had students coming for work experience. So it allowed us to kind of share the love. And we kind of ended up helping probably about, I don't know now, it's maybe 20, 30 schools now and organizations in the last like, I don't know, 18 months or so, maybe 2 years. And then we donated a considerable amount to charity. So like I could say if it was a ballpark figure, it could be anywhere like £150,000 plus worth of equipment and stuff to charities and organisations. And for me, that was so important because when you get like the schools utilising the stuff or it's actually for something great, it's a nice feeling. And it wasn't even just the UK. There was some stuff went to South Africa, other places, like some items went to Ghana, etc. And it was nice to see, like some people might be like, well, is it sustainability friendly to fly out there? But if cargoes and things are going out there anyway, like it's sustainability friendly, it's fine, don't worry about it. And it's better than actually e-wasting products too. So it's kind of like, yeah, I felt like that was a really like humbling project just because it did a lot of good, and it took a while to kind of kick it off, and there were so many conversations, things like that. But I'm glad because if it can help some kids get help in terms of learning about technology, learning coding, etc., well, my job is kind of done, I would say. Yeah.
Now, myself and Blair, we are very much like we're big advocates for sustainability and recycling. As one of our projects, Pro2EV STEM Challenge, we get young people to retrofit and recycle used petrol go-karts and turn them into fully electric e-karts, and then they get to race them, because we believe that'll be the future of the cars. And can't all dump all our petrol cars in landfill. It'd be much more environmentally friendly if we could recycle them, literally take out the engine and the motor, take out the engine, put a motor in there, put some batteries, and then Bob's your uncle. Obviously at the moment very expensive to do, but I'm sure the cost will come down in the future. But in terms of Akua, you've been featured heavily in some of the top business magazines over the past couple of years, including Investment Week's, Forbes, and you've been shortlisted for a number of awards as well. In terms of your career today, what would you say is your proudest achievement?
Oh God, that's a tough one. That's really hard. Do you know what? I would say, oh God, that's hard because there's a few things that I've really enjoyed doing. I would say probably, that's really hard. I'm toying between two.
You've done so much. She's done so much. You can't choose.
Yeah, I got to say, I think when I did my first kind of charity run, so I did it years ago for children with leukemia, and that was when I was actually just finished my placement year at Rolls-Royce, and we raised quite a lot for the charity. And I'm not a runner at all. Oh my God, I'd run for the bus or run away from a bee or something, but not like actually actively run. But yeah, I would say that was like one of my greatest achievements, because again, it was about helping out a children's charity. And yeah, I just felt kind of like so happy like once I'd done it, because even though my legs were aching me, oh my God. But yeah, I just got so much joy out of it. And knowing that it's gone to a good cause, it can help a lot of children. I think that for me was important for me, because for me in life, my purpose, my end game is whatever I could do to help people. Because I feel like it's so important. For me, I'm not motivated by materialistic things, by money. And some people be like, what? But it's the honest truth, because for me, yeah, my end game is like how you can help other people. And one of my favorite quotes even is like Audrey Hepburn. She says like you have two hands, one for helping yourself, one for helping others. And I think that's so important, because yeah, the world is so cruel, and rather than add to it, you could rather help what's going on.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I know. I love that quote. I'm actually get it printed and put up on the wall. I'm sure I could find it on a painting on Etsy. Something we already done it. And you know, in terms of you know, because everybody deals with their mental health in different ways.
Yeah.
And you know, what works for one person might not work for another. But in terms of helping you out of your crisis, how did you overcome your hurdle? Was because you know, some people say, you know what, they find a new hobby, could be exercise, or it could be, you know, going outdoors or something. You know, if you had to give a piece of advice for anybody who, you know, might be suffering with their mental health at the moment, is just looking for ways to kind of, you know, get out of the rut that they're in, you know, what advice could you give?
Yeah, I would say, well, it takes like kind of baby steps. And why I say that is just because you have to get to a stage where you can be like, you know what, like, I'm ready to tackle this. Because I would say the first couple of days, even the first couple of weeks, if you're really going through it and like depressed, that kind of thing, it takes a while. But you need to remember, like, there's 7 types of rest. You need to make sure like you get rest and kind of deal with the mental health kind of things, because it manifests into physical aspects where, let's say, your legs start hurting, you get backaches, headaches, things like that. So I would say you've got to be honest with yourself, look at what is making you unhappy, but also in the days where it's really tough, you got to find joy in the smallest things, like even getting out of bed, eating something, things like that, going for walks. But fresh, like, it can be a cliche, but fresh air is so important. If you're going through it, it's like staying at home like every single day, not even getting a little bit of fresh air doesn't help, because you put yourself in a confined space. And you got to kind of sometimes build resilience and courage, where even where it's getting a lot, you just speak to people about it. I was so fortunate to say that I had a few people where they knew that just something wasn't right, and they reached out to me, they helped me. Like, even someone I met that helped me with the whole kind of neurodiversity diagnosis and stuff like that. She was great. She was just like, come visit me. And after a couple of weeks, I couldn't do it. But then, like, near to the end of 4 or 5 weeks off, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go visit Emma. And it kind of really helped me. And then there was other people around me just going to me like, look, I'm going to get you out of bed, come visit me, and stuff like that. Because it takes small steps, but also people can keep trying to support you and be there for you, but also you've got to meet them halfway. Because the thing is as well, you don't want people to keep trying to get through, and then like you kind of like, but I can't do this. You can. You got to kind of like have that paper where it says like, I can't, cut off the T, and it's rather I can. And then like kind of like you get out of your funk gradually. And even there was one day where I laughed so much because I just put on music, like I think it's Motown music or something like that, and I was just being silly, and it was kind of like just finding something to make me laugh or give me joy, and like where you laugh until you're crying with laughter because it's so funny. I just think, there's little things like that you just got to do, and it all adds up over time, and then you get out of it. But just be honest. And even the days you don't want to talk to people, like, just put on your phone, that's what I did, unavailable or busy, do not disturb. And it's not like I didn't want to, like, tell people what was necessary going on. I just felt like I'm in such a funk. I don't want to put it onto someone else.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to deal with it myself, then move on. So it was one of those things. But I just keep, like, my personal advice to people is like, do what brings you joy. But yeah, just don't lose yourself, because like you'll come out of it better, brighter, you'll have more courage, you'll build more resilience. But it has to start within you, doing little things, and write down things as well, because that will help. Like, I did a lot of journaling and affirmation, so anytime I'd write down, okay, like what I want for the day, what task I'll do, even if I had a terrible day, I'd write down why it was terrible, but I'll flip the page, so then it's closed for the day. I don't have to revisit it. And then you go like, okay, start the next day, bigger, better, brighter, etc. Yeah.
So over time, it's like changing your mindset, like bit by bit. Yeah,
you have to go from fixed to growth. So fixed is when, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Growth is you're changing it, you're learning stuff, you're doing stuff to get better. So then, like, you could apply that to anything you want to do, even when it's like learning a new sport or playing an instrument, whatever you want to do. But you have to develop that growth mindset over time.
Yeah. No, a lot of very useful information in that 2 minutes that you were going through. And, you know, one of the things that I like to do, just to, like, if I'm ever in if I'm feeling a bit down, is my flatmate just laughs at me for it, but sometimes I'll just be singing in the kitchen, and I'm a terrible singer, by the way. And I can see her just rolling her eyes, but she's always laughing, and she does make comments say the best thing about the day is just hearing you sing. I know you're bad, Nile. And I was like, I know I'm bad, but I enjoy doing it. And obviously it puts a smile on her face. So whatever, I'll continue to do it. And it makes me laugh as well. But it's so important just to do things that you enjoy and make you feel happy. So, but anyway, we're gonna go into the finale part of the podcast, which is the bonus questions. So there's 3 bonus questions I'm going to ask you, Akua. The first one, it's a word of warning if you have watched the episodes before, is I do judge all my guests on the answer that they give me for this first question. Yeah. So anyhow you do fail to give me the right answer, Akua, then I might have to end the podcast early. So word of warning. But we'll go straight into that first question, which is my little drum roll. Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
No.
Pass the question.
That's it. That's all I needed. 22nd episode of the podcast. I think only 6 people have said it belongs. So everybody else is fine, honky dory. They're sane. The others, I don't know. The pineapple does not belong on a pizza, and I'm glad you agree with me there. The second question is, right, if you could throw a dinner party tonight and you could invite anybody, past or present, who would you invite?
Oh, this one is terrible because it's so hard. Oh my gosh. Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou?
Oh my God, this is terrible because there's too many people to think of. Okay. Maya, I would invite Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, because he's a legend. He's amazing. I'm trying to think of a football star. Who would I like? Oh, yes. Nadia Nadim. So she's an amazing football player. Yeah, she's amazing. Oh, I need to say someone present or I'll get in trouble. But then who would I choose that I won't get in trouble if they see this?
Well, Nadia Nazim's present.
Yeah. I would say my grandparents.
Grandparents.
Yeah.
So if you're going to invite both grandparents or just one?
Both. I've got to be equal. Yeah.
If we take them as an item of what they're one, but they're 2 people. So you had to drop one person. Who are you dropping? Maya Angelou, Stevie Wonder, or Nadia Nadim?
Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna drop Nadia. She's amazing.
You're gonna drop Nadia?
Like, yeah, I'm gonna drop Nadia because I got to choose my family, 100%.
And then the last question is, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
I would say I really want to go to the Galapagos Islands is it Ecuador or somewhere like that. I think that would be amazing, and plus I'll get peace because I'll be less on my phone. That's why I would choose that location, because while I've still got my phone, it's a problem. I'll always be working or doing something. Yeah.
So how long would it be before, the withdrawal symptoms kick in of using your phone? Because some people, it's like, go on a retreat, there's no technology, and then in about half an hour, it's like, this is alien. Where's the phone? Where's the Wi-Fi?
I don't know. I might mistakenly just chuck it in the water and be done with it and just get my trip started. It's just like, then no one can find me. Like, to be fair, my mum would actually tell me, she'll be like, one, you're terrible at answering my phone calls anyway. But then she'll just be like, that seriously, why did you do that? Like, once I get my phone back. Because she was just like, then how can I contact you? And I was like, maybe that was one of the reasons, to be honest. Please don't let my mum see this.
She'll only see it if you share it with her.
Oh, God. Because also today's my sister's birthday, and if she saw it, she'll just be like, you're in so much trouble. And she's just like, you didn't even say my name for the dinner party. But I was like, grandparents trump you, I'm sorry.
Someone's in trouble after this podcast.
So much trouble. I blame you two, seriously.
We're just the delightful humble hosts.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: we did not plan any of Akua's words.
How can you ask for people to choose for free? Like maybe do like 10 or something for free. Like do like come dine with me, swap people every day or something.
Have you heard that, Mum? You're on a rotation. You're not the first.
You're day two.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, brilliant. I really enjoyed this podcast. So, Akua, for our audience listening at home, and if they want to follow you on your journey or wanted to reach out or talk about some of the stuff, topics that we spoke about on this podcast, where's the best place that people can get in contact with you? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is the best place because even maybe if I grab my phone out of the water, I will respond. Maybe.
Just maybe. Maybe. If sharks haven't taken it by then, or just other fishes, if she happens to find it, you might get in contact.
So much trouble on this, yeah.
Or if her mum finds her first, she might not. But,
yeah.
Nigerian family.
Ghanaian, actually.
Ghanaian.
Oh,
I might be in trouble as well.
We're all in trouble. We're all in trouble. That's it.
There we go. We're all going to get whooping. Right, yeah. So definitely, if you want to get in contact, do connect with Akua on LinkedIn. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I'm sure we'll have you back on another future episode, Akua.
Sure. No, sounds good. It's been brilliant and it's been so much fun. And I'm glad we didn't even get started on jollof rice and stuff like that on here, or we'll all be in trouble for definite. Oh my God. But yeah, so yeah, let's just leave it as that, because I said that on something recently. And actually it's going to be something that is coming out soon. And oh my God, the comments on LinkedIn are going to be savage. I know that I'm in trouble already this month several times. So yeah, I think, this is my final podcast, I think, going forward.
Hopefully not, but if it is the final, thank God.
It's been
Brilliant. Well, yeah, no, that's all we've got time for, folks. And again, thank you for being on the podcast. And we wish you the best on your future journey. And we will be keeping tabs on you as well.
Yeah, of my menacing behaviour. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. All right, then. Take care, good.
Nice, Akua. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Niall.
Blair.
So, what did you think of today's episode with our guest, Akua?
So I thought today's episode was really, really good to learn a bit more about Akua and her background as an IT professional, especially, working in the financial services sector. And she's worked also in various other sectors like automotive. And, one of the things that I was really impressed about is some of the work that she's doing being an advocate and being passionate about improving representation and diversity inclusion.
Yeah.
As well as, talk about being an advocate for mental health and for people who are neurodiverse. One of the things that struck a chord with me as well is that, I never really thought about my own really mental health and how, especially, there are other people out there who might be suffering, but they don't even know they're suffering. But also if they are suffering with their mental health, it's like, going and doing stuff about it. Just trying different ways to try and escape it, but giving some time to yourself to work on it, to work on your mental health and to improve. And even the things like, she'd gone through many years of her life not knowing that she was neurodiverse, and then through one test, through taking a test, which apparently to get a test it takes 6 months?
About that.
6 months, 6 to 9 months, which is crazy in this day and age that it takes that long to get a test. But the results came back that she was dyslexic and had ADHD, which I found was just quite fascinating. So I just couldn't believe it took that long to be seen. But I think it's so important that we have people like Akua who can, make a difference, but also the whole mentoring side of, giving back and teaching the next generation in terms of the graduates who come and work in that company about the tech roles and things like that is important.
Yeah, you know what? I found it just, again, it's just really interesting how her story really mirrors our own story, essentially, in the sense that we're like Black founders who are in this industry of like technology and STEM, and how we don't really see much representation in terms of Akua being obviously a person of color, being a Black woman, but also being like female as well, and how she's basically, as a STEM ambassador, she wants to essentially raise the profile for more females and young Black people to get involved in this industry. Because as we were saying in the podcast earlier, when myself or Niall, when we go to these events, we are normally the only people of color at these events, and mostly in the events that we attend in like Manchester. But it's just in this day and age where there's so many people of color who live in like these major city areas, and you just don't see much representation. But change is coming slowly, but it's just not happening at a fast enough rate. And I was really, as you were touching on before now, really touched by her advocacy for mental health and the fact that she's being touted essentially as a mental health champion. Yeah, I just find that honestly, it's just really inspiring, to be honest. And the work that she's done as well, like she was mentioning about like a charity run that she did for young people who had like leukemia. It's just her using her profile and just giving away her time. I mean, what I said, I should have asked her about this, about how does she factor in all that in with her time, because it's just so many different projects, and the role in of itself must be like so time consuming, how she just manages to get all that in and just be able to inspire and achieve so much in during the week and in the future as well. So no, I was really inspired by the messages that Akua had in this podcast. And as I say, would love to have her back in the future, maybe in a year or 2 years' time, and see where she is going into the future.
One of the things you did touch upon, how it's important to have allyships, to have people who are in influential positions helping to bring up other people, you know, whether it's corporates working with companies who are promoting DEI, or, you know, working with players who are advocates of, you know, neurodiverse or giving opportunities. Yeah. It's important to have people to help out and help people on the journey. So that really touched and resonated with me. But all in all, just a great episode, a fun episode of the See Me Be Me podcast. Really loved the ending of the bonus questions and, you know, who should bring to the dinner party. And I think it was Stevie Wonder, Maya Angelou, and the grandparents. But left the mum off, so the mum's on a rotation. So if mum, if you're listening to this, wasn't our fault. Blame Akua. Give her a good whooping. Oh, I'm only joking. But no, great episode. Really inspirational stuff that she's doing, and like Blair says, definitely going to have her on as a future guest on the podcast to update on a journey of what she's doing in the future. But that's all we've got time for today. If you have liked this video or like this podcast, shall I say, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share it as well. You know, that's so one thing that you can do today, apart from taking some wisdom from the podcast. Make sure, please, to share this podcast. We are available on the following platforms: Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn at the Blair Project, and we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Get Me Motoring. We'll see you on another exciting episode of the podcast, of the See Me Be Me podcast. But for now, take care and see you later.
Peace out, everyone.
If you've liked today's episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Blair Project is on all major social media platforms, including Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube at The Blair Project. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, we are on TikTok at Get Me Motoring. If you'd like to follow myself individually, I am on Instagram at Nile Henry and also LinkedIn at Nile Henry as well.
And if you want to follow myself, I'm on Instagram as BlairHenry_97 and also on LinkedIn as just Blair Henry.
So we look forward to having you on the next episode. So stay tuned. Take care.
Until next time.